It was also a nice moment to kind of see your SNL-ness come out in doing a parody of something that was really well known. And I got a real kick out of that because, of course, I think you can probably tell by my age and beard, I would be in the target years of watching SNL in college when you were on.
Thank you. Yes, we have the same beard, you and I.
I wasn't going to mention it, but as long as you did. If you suddenly had billions and billions and billions of dollars, what would you do with it? Party like there's no tomorrow, travel the world, try and make a difference. These are all problems that Maya Rudolph, the award-winning comedy actor, is wrestling with. I should be clear. She's not wrestling with it. It's not her money. But on the show Loot, Maya plays Molly Novak, a divorcee of a tech billionaire, trying to figure out what to do with her $87 billion settlement and trying to be a better person along the way. Loot has just returned with its second season on Apple TV+, plus with a really interesting first episode that kind of looks at crypto and AI and sort of billionaire scammers. Anyway, Maya Rudolph is also a producer on the show, and it's great joy to welcome her to the show. Hi, Maya. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. That was such a perfectly described encapsulation of the show.
You think that was okay? That got it?
I think you got the job. I think it was great.
What did you like about it when you first got the script and started reading it? What was appealing to you about you?
All of what you said, I think, if you had all that money, what would you do with it? Would you use it for good? But also, wow, that's a lot of money. Isn't that kind of fun to delve into? And so the comedy, I think, probably comes mostly from that world of billions and billions and billions and what that could possibly look like.
What are you learning about that world? I mean, when I was talking to the folks from Succession, a couple of them came on the show, and I would talk to them about, because these are actors who are presumably going to nicer hotels, and these are actors who are presumably going to like nicer restaurants. But they each told me that like actually getting to play in the world or even act in the world of billionaires is a completely different thing. What did you notice about this world of the mega rich?
Um, It's funny, a lot of the people that I think a lot of billionaires are watching this show, which was kind of fascinating. I feel like people stop me and tell me like, oh, it's really accurate. This is really? Because we're just having fun and kind of making stuff up as we go along, This sky's the limit element to it is what I think is really propelling that. Like we're trying to look in the news and see what is going on and all the things that people are doing and all that. And I will say doing the show, I can't unsee what billionaires are doing left and right. It's fascinating. And there's just so much going on. People want to spend their money in very interesting ways.
When you say you can't unsee it, now that you've like been part of the show of like
Yeah.
playing the sort of billionaire, all of a sudden you're reading the news a little bit differently.
For sure. I mean, I don't think of, can I bathe myself in an exotic oil that is it from an extinct animal when I wake up in the morning, but I'm sure a billionaire has figured that out by now. And I did make that one up. That's not a thing. But, I think that it's just been really fun to look at what's going on in the world. And I think this idea of creating a character who wants to help, but has been coming from a place of just spending the wealth and enjoying the wealth, has been a great opportunity to talk about things that are going on in the world.
I think that there is a version of the show which isn't as good as in which your character becomes the sort of Mother Teresa-ish character, where like she realizes, and it's very smooth for her how to give all this money away and what giving all this money away means. Can you take us through how you've seen the character change since the beginning of season 1 up until now?
Yeah, I think the first season was a real surprise. She was surprised into this life of being newly single. I don't think she ever expected to be divorced from her husband and not be his supporter and his partner. And so now she's detaching herself from a life that she's been living for so many years that she never really asked questions about. And is asking herself for the first time who she wants to be and what kind of life she wants to have. I think the second season is now immersing her in her work family and really taking charge and being the actual boss that she is by truly living it and trying to at the same time sort of cleanse herself, if you will. So we're looking into wellness and thinking, okay, I need to shed some old things, bad habits, and trying to get healthy. You know, that feeling of like a fresh start is
Yeah.
where she's um, coming from in the beginning of this season.
I thought you did a really good job with the beginning of the second season, that Vogue questionnaire spoof thing you guys
Yeah, the
did.
73 questions.
Yeah.
That's so fun. That's like a game I think I could play. Like, I wish that were a cocktail party game. It's just so fun if to for someone to ask you questions while you're walking and have you come up with an answer without blinking an eye.
But you also did a great job at, like, whenever I watch those things, I never really know whether they're real answers or maybe like why their cadence is like that. Like, I don't want to say anyone in particular, but they'll be like, the question will be like, how many pairs of sandals do you own? And they won't say like, I own 4. They'll be like, oh, just 4. Like they'll have this weird cadence.
That's, I mean, I'm glad that you enjoyed that. That was probably the most fun part of it for me. I just think it's performative and I think it is a choreographed. I've never personally done it, so I don't know how they do it, but I felt like it feels like they've worked through it before. They've worked out the steps before, so they know what the answers are going to be. So it's a bit stifled, which I find really, really funny.
It was also a nice moment to kind of see your SNL-ness come out in doing a parody of something that was really well known, and I got a real kick out of that because, of course, you know, I think you can probably tell by my age and beard, I would be in the target years of watching SNL in college when you were on.
Thank you. Yes, we have the same beard, you and I.
I wasn't going to mention it, but as long as you did. I heard a story that you've told a bunch of times about your audition for SNL, but there's a detail of it that I've always been sort of curious about. I've heard you talk about, and hopefully maybe you might fill in the blanks here. You were told by your manager or your agent not to audition for SNL. And then you go on to say, you know, so I ended up submitting a tape a little bit later and I got cast. What I've never heard you talk about is why anyone would ever tell you in show business. Why did they tell you not to audition for SNL?
I guess there was like some opinion about the contract that year, which never really came to light. So I don't even know why I was told that. And I was just really young and impressionable and thought, oh, that person knows what they're doing. I should listen to them. And it was a really good lesson in that's not always the case. Just because people seem like they know what they're talking about doesn't mean that they know what they're talking about. Thank God it worked out, but yeah, it was a weird one, and I really thought like, you know, I've got to do it the right way. They'll be next year, you know, but it's not that, you know, if you don't come one year, they don't say like, hey, you didn't show up last year, you should audition this year. It's not like that. So, it was lucky that I was still performing at my theater at the Groundlings, and we were videotaping, like true videotape, actual tapes. We were videotaping our shows that we were doing. I was doing the Sunday Company, which is a weekly Sunday show of pieces that we created. So that was really lucky that I was able to submit a VHS tape.
Was there a moment of like, no, I don't care what they say. I'm submitting this VHS tape. Like, this is something I want. Because it was a dream of yours since you were a kid, right?
It was a dream of mine, yeah. And I was pretty devastated that I didn't, you know, I was trying to follow the guidelines of what sounded like was the timing of what was right to do. And so I was pretty devastated when I thought I wasn't going. I think deep down, I probably was a little relieved because the audition, which, you know, I created an audition and I didn't think it was that great. So what if I had auditioned? You know, I might not have gotten the job at all. And
Yeah.
you and I probably never would have met.
Well, that would have been the greatest crime of all, they say.
Right.
Yeah, that's what Lorne Michaels wrote me. He said, if it wasn't for that audition tape, you'll never get a
You
chance to talk to her on an Apple junket.
or your beards.
Yeah, you'll never get to compare beards. Or as we say in Canada, compaireds. Are you, that's very stupid.
It is. I liked it.
Thank you very much. Did you ever tell Lauren, hey, like, this is what happened, this is why I didn't audition?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, it was a given once I was in his office and I did have an interview with him that he knew I didn't show up for the last round of auditions. So I didn't feel that I had to belabor him with the nonsense of hey, you know, I didn't show up because of this. And I was like, yeah, it's just like he got it. He knew.
How was the first week?
Well, it was a little bit insane because I came at the end of the 25th season and they only had 3 shows left. So it wasn't like beginning of the school year, everybody's starting at the same time. I was the only new kid and everybody knew what they were doing. I didn't. So I got there on a Monday and there was no pitch meeting, which is rare, but I think the host wasn't in town that week. So I remember saying to someone, "What do we do now?" And they said, "We write." And I said, "Till when?" And they said, "Till we're done, like 7, 8 a.m. tomorrow." And I just heard all the doors closing to the offices. And I knew a couple people because of the groundlings. And so I tried to say hello to those people, but I didn't really know anybody. And it was a pretty lonely, it was a rough time. I weirdly, in retrospect, I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it much, but Zach Galifianakis and I were both there at the same time, and we were sharing an office. So there was that. So we would walk back to the hotel together, going like, "What are we doing here?" And he'd say, "I don't know." It was wild, and it just sort of like, it was like the river was flowing, and I was going along with the current. I was doing whatever anything was told of me. So I wrote pieces, I submitted them, and performed in whatever I was cast in, and hoped that I got the job. I still didn't even really know until that summer that I got the job.
Right, you don't really know whether you're gonna go back or not, right?
Yeah, it's sort of a renewal, and mine was just an odd timing thing. Again, I can't be more grateful that it worked out that way. I feel like if I hadn't come at the end and done what I do naturally, which is just the performance part, because like I'm not a good test taker, so I don't know that the audition would have been that great.
Right.
And I'm not stand up, and like it's sort of that format in a way. I just don't know how it would have ended up. So I got lucky.
Just one more SNL question. Like, was there a sketch or was there something that made you go like, "Oh, okay, I'm no longer adrift in the river. I'm okay. I'm good. This is gonna be all right here."
No.
No. Really?
I mean, maybe like year 5 after I had my daughter and left and came back and I did the national anthem, I think I thought like I felt pretty good about that. But I was always incredibly insecure about what I wrote and never felt like, you know what? I got it. It never feels like that ever.
I guess if it did, it'd be a bad thing. You're right. If you went like, "No, I got it."
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I just
Yeah,
maybe
like
meant like the moment we were not having like I know Bill Hader talks about like I was just having panic attacks up until a moment where I stopped having panic attacks. So I didn't know if there was like a.
sure, like there's that, yeah, there's that version of it. I mean, I think it's just, incredibly just wanting to do good, wanting to succeed, and it's your own version of it, whatever that looks like for you. So whether it's panic attacks or just like I suck, I'm an idiot,
Oh.
whatever your version of it is. I'm not saying that was mine. I was quoting Scotty J from Boogie Nights, but I'm just saying like that's what it is. It's your version of self-deprecation. Yeah.
That's exciting that you quoted Boogie Nights. Can I ask you about Bridesmaids?
Sure.
I wanted to ask
There
you.
won't be a sequel. I'm sorry if that's what you're asking. I'm just kidding. You seem like you like jokes.
I do like jokes. I do. And you know what? I also seem like I like jokes. Both those things are true.
It's the beard. It's a dead giveaway.
It's the beard and the flannel. It's the out of work Colin Hanks vibe I bring to every conversation I have.
Good vibe.
Thank you. My what I want to talk about Bridesmaids. So I saw it in theaters and I really loved it. I thought it was funny and I've watched it a million times. But I love the idea of it being a bad day movie. My girlfriend, she'll tell me that it's her bad day movie. If she's having a really, really rough day, and sometimes I'll be honest with you, and she's probably going to hear this. She doesn't listen. I come home and she's watching Bridesmaids, and I'll kind of go like, "Oh, okay, something went down."
Ah. So it's the quintessential that makes it a comfort movie if it's the bad day movie. I mean, I don't personally have that relationship to it, so it's so interesting to hear that. What was the question?
I didn't have one. What I was going to ask is when people come up to you and talk to you about the movie, outside of is there going to be a sequel? What do they tell you about it when they talk to you about it?
They tell me there should be a sequel. Is the other part of that? But I do hear that a lot. I do hear that they've seen it so many times and that it's their feel good movie. I like the term bad day movie. That's the first I've heard of it. So I'm gonna use that and give your girlfriend a percentage. But I think it's so cool to be a part of something like that because I grew up like I have those movies for myself growing up. So thinking that you provide that for other people is the highest form of praise. You know, I see people watch it on the airplane sometimes, not knowing that I'm on the flight with them. It's usually weirdly in the air and in the airplane scene, which is weird because we're in the air. I don't know why I'm always seeing that scene when I'm in the air, but it happens. Must be like part of the duration of the flight or something. Um, but it's a huge compliment, you know. I think I was sort of surprised when it first came out that so many little kids had seen it. I was like, really? Is this appropriate for you? But now I just feel like everybody's seen it.
Do you ever go tap the people on the shoulder on the airplane and go, "Hey, it's me"?
No, but that's a really good idea. I should do that next time and say like, you know, that scene you're watching? Um, I'm gonna reenact it for you right now. You stand up, you be Kristen, I'll be me. Sometimes I find it, I had a flight attendant once coming around. You know how they have snacks sometimes, and she was like, "Can I offer you an apple?" And I said, "No, thanks." And she looked at me like, "An apple?" And I was like, this is from something. What is she saying? And then she's like, it's from Boogie Nights. Jesus Christ. She was like, it's from Bridesmaids. And I said, it is? She said, yeah, you said it. I was like, honey, I don't remember all the things I said. I'm sure I did. How am I supposed to remember that?
I don't know if I remember it either. Where do you say that?
Thank you. Was it like 15 years ago? 20?
Yeah.
No, I said it. Yeah, 15 years ago.
You said it. You said it like 4 times for coverage. You didn't even, you said it one day.
Thank you.
All right.
And I didn't even write it.
There's a scene in Loot that kind of caught me off guard, but it's not because of what was the acting that was happening. It was because of the music that was playing in the background. It's in the first episode of season 2, and you're trying to.
Thumbs over Baghdad?
No, a tribe called Quest.
Oh.
There's
which
I think it's the one where you're reading all of the nice comments that have come in about your plan to house unhoused people.
Yes.
And Can I Kick It plays in the background during that scene. And it was interesting to hear Tribe Called Quest because we were talking before we came in that your Tribe Called Quest sampled your parents' music.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Quite a bit. Did you know that growing up? Were you listening to Tribe and going like, 'cause I know you're a great music fan. Were you listening to Tribe and going like, that's mom and dad?
Very much so. I was really excited about it. I thought I felt so cool because it was also a band. It was a band that I liked, and they thought that my parents were cool, and I felt like, wow. And then I got to meet Q-Tip, and I thanked him for putting me through college because that was always the joke that me and my dad would say. I was like, yeah, it's Tribe Called Quest put you through college. But honestly, it's such an incredible compliment to be used in that way by musicians that you respect. So it was like a whole twofold cool experience. And I love that I'm taking credit for it. And I literally have nothing to do with it.
We have can we play a little bit of Check the Rhyme, Gabby? Do you have it there?
Back in the days on the boulevard I landed, we used to kick routines and the presence was fitting. It was I, the abstract,
and me, the 5-footer. I kicks the mad style, so step off the Frankfurter.
Yo, Fife, you remember that routine that we used to make?
What I love about it is, as opposed to sampling again one parent, that would be amazing enough. But then that it's both your parents. That's a beautiful thing.
It's very cool. I still feel cool. While you're playing, I was like, I'm cool.
Me and my
and again, didn't lift a finger.
I mean, I've realized I'm doing a bad public radio job by not telling anybody who your parents are. I just said your parents, and I could just move on and know whatever.
George and Martha.
You chose the Washingtons?
Yes, I did. I did. Do you remember those books went from the George and Martha books? So did you ever have those when you were a kid?
No, maybe not in Canada.
Yeah, they didn't allow Canadian children to read them. They were 2 alligators named George and Martha, and they weren't a couple. They were just friends. They're very cute.
That's very nice. They were just good buddies that hung out all the time.
We're good buddies, but sometimes George would like look in the window when Martha was taking a bath. It was interesting. But they were just pals. Just pals.
That's nice. That teaches a lesson that you can be pals.
You can be pals and bathe in front of each other.
Well, that's a new lesson to me, but I'm learning a lot from this conversation already.
But I apologize. I made jokes and cut you off.
You don't have to apologize for that. That's what you're a funny person. Your job is to make jokes.
No, I do get paid to do that.
And this interview goes.
off.
Do you understand how this interview will go? People are going to come up to me and say, "Oh, Maya Rudolph, she was so funny with you. She made so many jokes."
She must have liked your beard.
Even though she was holding up a sign that said, "I don't like your beard." I should say who your parents are. Your mom was the incredible, the late Minnie Riperton, the incredible singer with a 5-octave vocal range. Your dad, Richard Rudolph, worked with everybody, Shaka Khan, The Temptations, Stevie Wonder.
I've heard of all of those people.
What a music head.
I know. I like music.
Do you have memories of your mom singing, of like watching her on stage or anything?
On stage, yes, absolutely. My parents used to take me and my brother on the road when we were pretty little, before, school, all the school years got in the way. But being on the road with my parents was pretty fun, I gotta say. The road is a pretty cool place, and kids, you go to different places, and in those days, I didn't even realize the whole mashup of probably what influenced me a lot, which was, it wasn't just music, it was also comedy. I was looking at an old home movie, and the marquee said Minnie Riperton and the Smothers Brothers. They would, a lot of times they would go, people would go on tour together. My mom did a lot of stuff with Richard Pryor and Flip Wilson, and it was all kind of a mashup.
Oh, that's so cool! Because I was wondering how
Yeah.
how you ended up doing comedy when your family's so musical.
I don't really know. I
Yeah.
do think that it was just kind of like all in there at the same time, and I think that comedy and music are cousins. They're kind of the same thing in like two different. They're the same language but spoken in two different ways. My parents are really young and really funny, and I feel like musicians want to be comedians, and comedians want to be musicians, and sometimes they're both.
That era is over, hey. I remember reading in Steve Martin's book about him like opening for Elton John and stuff like that. That used to happen a lot more.
And it makes sense because I think it was thought of in a certain box, But yeah, I watched that incredible new Steve Martin documentary and all that stuff of him at the Troubadour. It's like you think of the Troubadour and you think of, rock shows, but that's kind of what he was considered to be part of. And he had a lot of like college age audiences. And man, if you have not seen that documentary and you like laughing, you should watch it.
I do like laughing, and I haven't seen the documentary.
It's wonderful. It's a 2-parter. I'm just gonna plug it because it has nothing to do with me. I got time. I'm just gonna talk about it.
You know what? That's called being charitable for your friend Steve, who could use the help.
He could use the help. Let's face it. He could use the help. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible.
He was wearing one of those old Depression barrels around his. I saw one of those. That was weird.
Last time you saw him, I think he's doing just fine. He probably doesn't need my help, but it was a really wonderful way to get to see all of that beautiful old footage. The first half is all old Steve, and the second half is all new Steve. It's beautiful.
I was listening to you playing music. I remember watching the Rentals video on Much Music in Canada for Friends of P, and it was Matt Sharp, right? Matt Sharp, who was in Weezer for the Blue album and for Pinkerton.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the crossover was he was in the Rental. The Rentals were happening at the same time as Pinkerton. Were you in the band the same time that he was in Weezer too?
He recorded it, I think, after one of those records. I had just gotten out of college, and my girlfriends were in a band called That Dog. And
Yeah.
they had sung on a couple of them. Rachel and Petra had sung on the record, and it was Matt's project. So he was just selecting all these great LA musicians that he loved. And then when it was time for him to go on the road, he needed somebody who didn't have a job, basically. And so Rachel said, "Oh, my friend Maya sings and plays keyboards." And so I just went on the road with him.
Doing the oohs.
It's me and Sherry, yeah.
Can we hear it? We have some of the live stuff.
Oh, live, yeah.
I'm a good guy for a gal, so won't you look my palm over? I got time for a chat, so won't you tell me my future?
It sounds great. It sounds great, man. It sounds really good.
So cute. I was such a little baby.
You were on opening for Alanis Morissette, and it's a Canadian show. I got to point that out. And I wonder if
I was there. We were in Canada. Were you there?
No, I'm in my mid-30s, so I wasn't old enough.
So you weren't alive. Let's be honest.
I wasn't even alive. I wasn't even thought about. No one cared about me.
I thought about you, but nobody else cared.
Thank you. What do you remember from touring with Alanis? That was Jagged Little Pill. That was pretty wild.
Alanis was a lovely host. We spent Thanksgiving together as band families. She was very gracious, and we did a lot of hacky sacking with her and her band. And I got to know her drummer Taylor at the time, Taylor Hawkins.
The late Taylor Hawkins, who we just lost
Yes,
there last
he
year.
was the funniest, coolest, just like had that great energy of like having fun people to hang out with on the road, because the road is very confusing, and we would sleep on a bus and wake up in a different city, and so getting to be their opening act for a month was fascinating and fun, and they were sweet, and we went bowling together and stuff like that.
That's a wild time to open for Alanis. That was really...
I know. It was truly like her career. It was like at this point of her career, it's like Explosion City.
I find the music thing very interesting. I find your musical impressions really interesting. I find the whole idea of you as a musician really very, very interesting as a comedian.
Thank you. I think it's interesting too. I think it's I'm far more comfortable with it than I used to be. I think I used to sort of like anything that comes from your house is embarrassing, right? Like music came from my house. So like I liken it to turkey burgers. When I was a kid, we didn't eat red meat. So at home we ate turkey burgers, and that was really embarrassing. And now turkey burgers are cool. And I'm like, yeah, I ate turkey burgers. So my point is like being who you are is like embracing your inner turkey burger.
If I get that on the shirt, I'll give you a percentage.
Please. And then I'll split it with your girlfriend, who should really just be your wife at this point. She and I have talked.
We're working on it.
I definitely didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Well, no, can I be honest with you? I say girlfriend because I hate saying fiance.
Yeah, you should say whatever you want to say. You should make a new term. Ring wearer.
Yeah, she's my ring wearer.
Yeah, but you have an accent and I don't, and it sounds weirder when you say it.